Recently, I had a strange feeling. It was a weird, very peculiar feeling. I was listening to an album. It had just come out, but it felt really familiar. Not in a way of I've heard this album before, but like I knew who I was, who I have been, how I've changed, what I've been thinking about, people in my life that I've met. The album was I Used to Go to This Bar, seventh studio album in the discography of pop punk Midwest emo band Joyce Manor. But what really reinforced this feeling, this oddity in me, was reading a review of the album by Pitchfork. I know it's a little passe to read Pitchfork reviews and get your opinions from a music publication, but Pitchfork in the review called this band the elder statesman of the emo scene. And as anyone in their mid 20s or older will tell you, there's always a moment in your life somewhere where you go, oh, that wasn't too long ago. Oh, that's still new. That's recent. That came out just a little bit ago. What do you mean COVID was 6 years ago? What do you mean high school? Never mind. But then I thought, yeah, I did used to listen to Joyce Manor in high school. Oh, that wasn't that long ago, right? Like just high school was. Oh, maybe that was a little bit ago. Um, and sometimes when you, in your mind, art can be time capsules of that part of your life. Um, and that's certainly true of Joyce Manor for me. Their self-titled album soundtracking a lot of my kind of mid-teenage high school years. I remember really enjoying their album in mid to late high school, thinking that I was gonna get their lyrics tattooed on me. The line from Constant Headache, maybe human's not such a bad thing to be, maybe somewhere on my chest. It's kind of a little silly now. Or a heart tattoo from their song, Heart Tattoo. He really wants a heart tattoo. Um, but there's also another point, a point a little later than that, where I thought I would grow out of emo and listen to better or more mature music. Um, and that there would be some linear path to unlocking enlightenment and being able to judge music for myself and grow into maybe another band. And that Joyce Manor would just be another band that I used to listen to in high school, like a million other bands. But sometimes the best art and artists and people or bands, instead of being outgrown, will grow with you and mature as you mature. And I think that's a lot of the reason why this Joyce Manor record really resonated with me. It wasn't, because it reminds me of high school or some idealized version of the past that never really happened. I used to go to this bar as an album. It's about getting older, reflecting on the experiences, and the title of the album is a reference to a bar that you used to go to, the first bar you frequented, the idea of being that age, the nostalgia you have for that age of that bar. Maybe it wasn't the best bar in the world, but just close by, and you made some memories there, and for you, that's your memories, that's your bar. And the bad memories don't seem to stick. It's just the good memories you had at that bar, at that place. But what's so interesting is the members of Joyce Manor are much older than me. They grew up in a similar place. Shout out Torrance, California. But they're a lot older. They've matured in a way that maybe is past me. I don't have a bar that I used to go to. I'm still, I think, a little bit too young for that kind of nostalgia and haven't really moved away far from home or different places. But really makes, what's really interesting to me and makes me think about this and kind of conveys this feeling is sometimes when you hear lyrics, you think of certain people. And when they sing of things like past relationships or friendships in I used to go to this bar, my mind doesn't go back to people I used to know in high school, people I used to talk to when I first had heard Joyce Manor. It's people I talk to now, people that I don't think I would have had that connection to in high school. Somewhere in the album is a universality that feels like it's built specifically for me, even though I know it's not. I've never met any of the members of Joyce Manor. I didn't work on the album. They didn't interview me for my experiences. But it's always going to feel like it's a part of me, that it's written specifically for me about the people that I know, people that I've met recently. Somewhere in this video is a very thoughtful explanation of the past and growing up and past ideas and what it means to grow up and grow with art. what it means to form new connections with things. Unfortunately for fans of, well, good video essays or thoughtful analysis, I am a messy person and I'm going to talk about things I need to talk to before my brain blows up. Um, Somewhere in here is probably a more concise essay, a more dramatic, more melancholic reflection on the past, and maybe a hopeful recognition of the future and things I like now. But unfortunately for all of you, it's gonna be me talking about things I like and trying to tangentially connect them. Um, yeah, I'm looking at the page count now. Ooh, this might be very long, but we'll see. Anyways, I hope you enjoy. The first thing I want to talk about is something that evoked very similar feelings to I used to go to this bar, which is a little web series called Too Kawaii for Comfort. I know, it's a cringe name. It's okay. And I don't want this to be a recommendation because I think, honestly, it's not applicable to most people. There's maybe very few specific friends that I would be like, you have to watch this. But overall, it's a little bit more niche and not as universal and not as accessible as everything else I'm going to talk about, basically. Too Quiet for Comfort is a psychological horror miniseries. But the twist, the uniqueness of it, is it's set in the late 2000s, early 2010s anime con scene. So it's a weird blend of kind of that very, I almost want to say Safdie Brothers-esque escalation of everything horrible happening, but with the worst person you've met standing in line at Anime Expo who's talking to you about Genshin Impact. Each of the main cast is just like a funhouse mirror of some people, the worst person you've ever has talked to you in that line. You know, the fighting game fan who's really arrogant and thinks he's the best. A non-confrontational person who really struggles to socialize. The person that's just a little too into cosplay and shoujo characters and maybe becomes a part of them. It's all there in such a way that's so, I don't want to say raw and genuine, but it does feel like, oh, I know that person, or oh, yes, it's exactly what they're like. And like these Safdie movies, it's such an uncomfortable, just unbridled, just secondhand embarrassment. Oh my god, I got so much secondhand embarrassment watching this. It was a rough watch. I'll tell you that. It's a rough watch if you get a lot of that. But at the same time, it's so brilliant. It captures like the scene at the time perfectly. Like I remember meeting people like that. I remember feeling like that. I remember seeing some of these things, like even some of the really small things, like who remembers when webcomics were at cons instead of kind of artist alleys and cosplayers? It's a strangest time capsule almost. It's so just real. But I don't know. It's a little bit difficult to talk about without spoilers. I implore all of you to watch it. I think it's getting a sequel. I think animated series. I don't know if it's animated or live action, but it's getting some sort of follow up. So watch Too Kawaii for Comfort if you think you'll like it, especially if you've gone to a con, any small to medium sized con in the late 2010s. But yeah, I mean, just the way I describe it, I wrote this down. I don't know why I wrote this down. This is kind of a fun. If I said uncut gems for geeks who watch too much anime instead of gamblers who are addicted to gambling. But it's utter mastery of the craft. It's such low budget, perfect, in a way that there's no real special effects or anything. But the horror is so, and maybe horror is the wrong word. Just like the dread the series makes you feel so good. It's an uncomfortable watch, but good artist challenging. I implore all of you to watch it, and especially if you've gone to any of those cons. It's genuinely kind of horrifying, and it makes me think, oh my god, did I used to be like that? Oh my god, I might be a monster. Oh my god, this series is getting to me. I can't stop thinking about it. So I implore you to go watch Too Quiet for Comfort if you think you'll like it. I know I said I was going to talk about the past and things that remind me of the past, but I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about a different web series that I thoroughly enjoyed.
I am Moon. 人間は人間たれ。自分は自分たれ。ノンはノンたれ。
I Am Non. I Am Non is a documentary of sorts about the titular Non directing her first feature film, which she's also starring in. She was an up-and-coming actress looking to break into the directing industry, and she's given the keys to the kingdom to make her first movie. Compared to maybe the ugly 2000s look, I don't want to say ugly as a negative, I mean in the most endearing, oh my god, that's what it looked like at the time, of Too Quiet for Comfort, I Am Non is really visually stunning. There's little small snippets of animation that kind of almost reminds me of like corporate videos where they have the little bit of animation between slides or at presentations. But they're so beautiful, like the use of color and just how maybe simple the animations are, but effective. It just, I don't know. I seriously, I cannot state how visually appealing the series is without just telling people to watch it. I think it's worth watching for the visuals alone. Like, honestly, it's really so visually stunning, and you can tell Non has such an eye for color and composition and just little eye-catching things. But outside of the visuals, the content of the series is just as good. It's a real, inside of it is like a real honesty and real passion for the creative process and being creative as a person. One part I particularly love and find maybe a little too relatable is in the early episodes of the series, when Non is first shopping around the project, a lot of people are asking Non, their first question is, what kind of movie do you want to make? What kind of art do you want to make, and what do you want to say? And Non doesn't know. She wants to create, yes, and she has maybe some ideas. She has a setting, but she just knows she wants to make something that's authentic to her, something that represents who she is, something that screams her existence into the world. And it's a relatable feeling, a beautiful feeling, and genuinely inspiring, in a very honest way. Throughout the series, Non struggles. It's not very smooth sailing. A lot of the people working there have had previous experience, maybe a little bit. It seems like her assistant is her best friend, which seems to lead to more issues. But just seeing the struggles of mundane things like scheduling, staffing, planning, and just the day-to-day problems Non encounters is really captivating. And while all this happens, Non prioritizes a movie just over and over again, over everyone, everything. Okay, I messed this up, but she's just going to keep pushing. She's going to keep trying. And afterwards, the movie itself is also on YouTube. It's called Get to the Punchline. Probably something else in Japanese, but that's the English side of the film. And it's good. I really wish I could tell you it's some unknown, underrated masterpiece, a real examination of the human mind that I've never seen before. But it's not. It's good. Maybe not great, but it's good. As generous as I am towards the movie, understanding the struggle of Non and the full creative process, I really can't say it's better than like a 4-star 8 out of 10 movie. Non's penchant for kind of interesting visuals and really bright colors is the high point of the movie. It's very, again, visually appealing. I love the costume design of some of the characters, and how much, the film changes as we get into some of the more mystical elements, but I feel like the film almost lacks a certain maturity or emotional through line. Watching the movie is a fun ride, but it's a roller coaster. After you step off, you remember maybe the feeling, but not all the loops, not all the turns of the coaster. But after watching the series and the movie, something as trivial as quality or goodness, objective goodness of the movie is so stupid. It's a pointless metric. The real miracle and the real kind of satisfaction you're gonna get watching the movie is it's a movie not made. It's a way to understand her, a superhuman effort of just passion and creativity and love that this movie was even created. It's a genuine miracle that it was made with how much effort they put in. But the real beauty is how much of Non you can see in the movie. Her directing, the choices. You see her make choices, but now we're seeing the impact of choices and go, oh, yeah, that is like Non. Yeah, I understand why she did that now. And the movie just screams Non. Like, yeah, not just the visuals, and not just she's the main character, and her acting is pretty good. I mean, I don't think it's mind blowing, but again, it's a pretty good performance. It's You can see her in it in a way that kind of won't make sense if you haven't seen the series. I think if you don't watch the series, the movie's probably like a 6 out of 10, maybe a 7. I would give it a 7. But after watching it, it's a lot of, it's a very, it's a weird feeling to describe, but it's very almost heartwarming to see. Hey, this person had a dream and they've realized their dream. They've shown themselves. You can see who they are based on the art they made. It's Kino. It's so Kino. But both the series, I Am Non, and the movie Get to the Punchline are on YouTube with subtitles. If I'm not lazy, I'll put a link in the description. There's a playlist that has all of it. Also, if you watch it, please go rate it on Letterboxd. It's currently the thing on my Letterboxd at least, it's the least popular thing I've watched is the I Am Non miniseries, which is a travesty. It's so good. I don't think it's gonna hit for everybody. If you're a creative person, though, if you have interest in filmmaking, if you love the creative process, if you want to see someone really go through it and have an honest look about what it means to put yourself out there, what it means to be a creative, I mean, I can't recommend enough. It's probably a lot of the reason why I'm even making this video is because of how much I enjoyed it. So if you can, go watch I Am Not, go watch Get to the Punchline, form your own opinion, and rate it on Letterboxd. Even if you give it half a star, I want you to see it. I think it's good for the soul. Speaking of good for the soul, the next thing I want to discuss is change through experiencing something. We all change, we all experience things, but sometimes when you see the right piece of media, stuff that you just see or experience at the right time, and it changes maybe your soul and what you think of life and the things around you. And the idea that you latch onto certain ideas and pieces of art and stories because it's what you need at the time. So, for example, being a little personal, my 3 favorite animes are all coming of age stories: Ping Pong the Animation, Gurren Lagann, and Fully Cooley, which I all saw in high school when I was coming of age. Shocker, I know. But at that point in my life, I wasn't specifically seeking out coming of age stories. I wasn't watching, anime for teenagers who are going into adulthood. But it was just at the point in my life where I really understood it and felt seen by these stories. I didn't really seek it out as much as it sought me out. I remember the first time I played Night in the Woods, I hated it. It was dumb, maybe a little pretentious. I don't understand why everyone liked this indie game. Then a few years ago, I replayed the game. I was home one summer from college, going through a breakup, self-isolating from my friends, kind of being at home and living at home for 2 months for the first time, in about a year. And oh my god, everything was biting, everything was relatable, everything was painful. Yeah, this is exactly how it feels. I didn't have the exact same situation as the main character, but I get it. This is like seeing your friends. All these quotes. Yeah, maybe I do talk like this. Maybe it wasn't pretentious. Maybe I do feel this way. And just crying. I remember crying and bawling my eyes out at 1 a.m. about having to pick between my friends and maybe things I cared about before in the game. Like, for example, there's a mystery and maybe a murder. You find body parts. That was unimportant now. What I remember when I think about Night in the Woods is seeing your friends after coming home from college, your parents and what they think, and how time moves maybe without you, and how you think things are more static than they are, and how we've all changed, and maybe you didn't understand how things were the way before. The past was just your understanding of the past, not a truth. But I don't want to talk about Night in the Woods today. What I want to talk about is my favorite movie. My favorite movie of all time. Maybe my favorite piece of media of all time, I might say. Sorry, 1,000 times resist, but probably my favorite. This is something I think about genuinely daily. Like, it's probably my Roman Empire, maybe, if you will. That is the movie Asako 1 and 2 by Ryusuke Hamaguchi. It's not 2 movies. I know it's 1 and 2. It's one movie called Asako 1 and 2. But, like, genuinely, if I had to describe myself, my taste, my philosophy, my whole being in one movie, one 90 to 120 minute piece of art, it's Asako 1 and 2 pretty easily by a country mile. It's almost silly how much I think about this movie, how much I love it, and how integral I feel it is to me. In a weird way, it's part of me. I didn't make the movie, I had no hand in it. I've only seen it well into my, my 20s, but it's so integral to me. And it may be a weird way. I've shown this movie to a few friends. None of them have given it 5 stars, the perfect review. Maybe not. I don't even think any of them have given it a 4.5. Actually, looking now, maybe some of them did. Oops. But in my brain, I'm like, you just don't get it. I mean, you're just wrong. You're kind of dumb. Like, if you experienced every relationship I have and every friendship and had the same upbringing as me, and you just had that life experience that maybe you're lacking, you'd watch it again and be like, oh, I get it now. You didn't watch it properly. You didn't experience my life. Some people, am I right? What I I am joking, but the real rage bait that happened to me, and I do not encourage this behavior. Sometimes when I want to get upset, horrible thing, I'm not endorsing this, is going to your favorite thing, movie, game, album, TV show, comic book, anime, manga, whatever it is, whatever your favorite thing is, going to a review site and looking at the worst reviews you can for that thing. The one star, the didn't rate it, the half star, and just read through as many of them as you can before getting mad. It's a fun game. It's not a fun game. It's a miserable time and maybe a little Sisyphean task to read it and not get mad. Oh my god, it's so frustrating other people. You read these reviews, and especially of Asako 1 and 2, about how people muse, oh, this character is so stupid, and they are shallow, and none of their actions make sense. I'm talking about art in this very objective way of plots making sense and being objectively bad and objectively meaningless and not having that deeper value. It was actually a really genuinely enlightening experience, a very eye-opening experience about how different lived experiences can be. But on the other end of the spectrum, it really strengthened my connection to the movie. Hamaguchi, the director, kind of summarizes my feelings on life throughout the film. And I see so much of myself in like the positive and negative aspects of like each of the characters, especially the main character Asaka. And like in the movie, the biggest criticism that I see of the movie all the time, and read any bad review of the movie, Asuko's actions don't make sense. I don't understand why she did. She just blah 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 something something for the plot. But to me, it's like her actions make perfect sense. I've been in that headspace. I understand what that character was like. I almost envy some of her courage to make the decisions because it seems like exactly what I would want to do, but wouldn't have the strength to do. And through that, it's almost beautiful to me that genuinely across the world, across generations, across relationships, across cultures, even oceans, halfway across the world, Hamaguchi can live a completely different life for me. Meet completely different people, be in a completely different situation, and still feel the same things and put that into art in a project like this. And I don't really subscribe to the auteur theory of, he did everything. I'm sure the writer, the producer, the actors, the cinematographer, all of them had this feeling. There's a universality of the conclusions that can be drawn about life and relationships that transcends such silly things as time and space. And, well, it's a little bit difficult to really dig into this movie without getting into spoilers. And kind of whenever I watch this movie with somebody, I hate people who talk during movies, but I just want to pause the movie every few minutes and go, yeah, so this is exactly kind of what I was thinking, and this happened to me one time, and one time somebody said this to me, and it was kind of similar, and I said this back, and, you just don't get it. You reach for there, right? Blah, blah. You just don't understand why they did this. And be like, this is literally me. Just scream out how every aspect of the movie is just built upon the core of who I am. And I've heard other people say this, and I've heard many, 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 many people say this. And I thought it was cliche. I thought it was dumb. But I feel with this movie, which is, this thing was made for me. For me specifically. It wasn't made for audiences. It wasn't made to make money. It wasn't made to be played in theaters. It was made for me. And it's kind of naive because when I first watched it, I don't think it was made for me. I would never have said that. When I watched it, I gave it a 4 on Letterboxd and 8 out of 10 great but not perfect. And it's, that's a far cry from the, life-defining crown jewel it became of my kind of taste. Growing up is funny sometimes. It's the things you don't expect. And even maybe in 10, maybe in 20, maybe in 30 years, I don't know if Asako 1 and 2 is going to be my favorite. Maybe I think the film is dumb. It's wrong. Maybe Asako is shallow. Maybe, yeah, that's what I was like in my 20s. But, I'm mature now. I don't. That's not me. But it still will be relatable. It still will be universal to that time in the way that the best things are. And if I find my own happiness, my own conclusions, and maybe something else that represents that better, I'm only going to get there because of how much I appreciate Asako 1 too. Bad news for those of you still watching. You've now made it to the wrestling portion of this video. So my biggest hyperfixation of the last kind of few years has been pretty undoubtedly, pro wrestling. Anyone who knows me in real life will tell you I speak about it constantly. I am almost, fiendishly devoted to it and just absolutely obsessed. So to put it into perspective for someone who maybe does not know me and how much I watch, I'm currently watching about 6-ish promotions a week, with maybe about 6 more that I watch kind of irregularly or for big events. On the low end, if we're having a very conservative reading, let's just say those 6, those 6 promotions will have about 2 hours of content a week average. Obviously, this jumps when it has a big event. So, for example, as I'm recording this, AEW Forbidden Door is coming up, and that will probably be 6 to 8 hours on top of about 3 hours of normal scheduled programming. So, which is already like 9 hours a week, which is a far cry from this 2 average. But just with the 2 average, that's 12 hours a week, plus catching up on older promotions, plus big events with other ones. Which shout out Hyper Visual Fighting Arceon. It's been sick catching up on that. Those girls are great. But I'm basically almost, it's not a full time job. I'm not watching 40 hours wrestling a week. That'd be crazy. But I think I might be well over 20, so we're already over halfway there. But what I want to discuss here is the appeal of wrestling. Why I'm watching this much. It's not normal. I need to seek help. Anyways, before anyone tells me, yes, wrestling is fake, predetermined, blah blah blah. Yes, I know it's fake. I was gonna do a bit where I pretended I didn't know wrestling was gonna fake, and I was go, what? I was researching this video and it's fake. Then it was silly, but oh, that would have been a good one. I should have kept that in. But anyways, when watching wrestling and why I like it, I almost think why I like this changed a lot since I first started really getting into it, maybe in 2024. Originally, I think I was drawn to maybe the big soap opera storylines and that blending of reality and sports and fiction. Kind of stuff like the Ballad of Hangman I discussed in that last video, if you guys have seen that. Which, yikes, that has not aged too well. And my enjoyment of Hangman is gone. That was also in the middle of his title reign, which was awesome. And before the Murray Scroll stuff, yeah, not cool, Hangman, not cool. But anyways, I want to talk about something a little less problematic, a little thing that makes me a little more happy. Which is my kind of runaway favorite promotion in the last year or so. Maybe the whole time I've been watching wrestling, if we're being a little honest, even though I didn't consider it that. Which has been a Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. Or TWJP, or Tej, or if you're a real weeb, you say Tojo, but we're not doing that. We're not doing all that. Tej is a women comedy-based promotion with very kind of little long-term storytelling or really drawn-out vignettes. Not that it doesn't have any of that. It doesn't, of all wrestling has storylines and dramas, but it doesn't have maybe the melodrama and soap opera elements of WWE or AEW. You're not going to have month-long segments where we go into things. In general, Japanese wrestling is more, the storytelling is in ring and in the match rather than before or after in a segment and talking. I also don't speak Japanese, so that might be a big part of it. Shout out translators. These are some great ones. Dramatic DT blog, shout out. But mostly I don't even watch some of them. And I'm still invested. So Tej is a kind of comedy based company. Not all of their matches are, but a lot of it is. And a lot of their matches evolve into kind of almost absurdist comedy that a lot of it is I can't understand what they're saying and I'm reading broken translations or, Googling things. But at the same time, even though I think that sounds like it's a barrier to entry, it's almost a very universal, perfect entry point to pro wrestling. For a few reasons, but firstly, I think like a lot of the comedy is more universal than you think. Some of it is a very Japanese style of comedy. Do not look up Dan Shokodino from DDT. That was a not cool thing to learn about as an American, maybe as American sensibilities, but I think a lot of the comedy in Tokyo Joshi in particular is universal. A lot of people think of wrestling as trying to mimic MMA, but maybe, because of the presentation, the, big fight feel. But I think a more apt comparison is kind of closer to dance or really theater. And almost like a theater production, Tokyo Joshi has like a lot of very silly moments and characters. There's a giant inflatable panda who had a storyline about cheating on his wife. Hyper Misao, a superhero who protects love and peace, who often wins by cheating and running people over with her bike and cheating with cold spray. There's her tag partner, Shoko Nakajima, who's a humongous kaiju, the biggest kaiju you've ever seen. Stuck in a 4'9", 4'10" human. There's Raku, who can put people to sleep with her lullaby and loves trains. Her finisher, Dr. Yellow, is named after a train. They have matches on bullet trains and water parks. And, there was some match wrestling I watched where they did elementary school PE games and won by answering a quiz correctly. There's really fun, watchable stuff that it's easy to get lost in a fun variety show of wacky characters doing wacky things. Almost like an Adult Swim, There's an honest-to-God rom-com match with the aforementioned Raku, who is canonically married to a 10,000-year-old demon who possessed a poor, little girl who, when she was a child, and has grown up to be Chairman Ram, a demon-possessed wrestler who married the idol Raku, and they go on a date and have a little rom-com in the middle of a match. It's great. Shout out Ram and Raku, but on the other side of this, with these variety shows and kind of with these gimmicks, there's a lack of almost fundamental core wrestling or pro wrestling concepts. There's no factions or groups. There's not even really heels and faces. There's no good guy and bad guy. And in their whole history, they've had one kind of major heel faction in the Obishigan, but they've long disbanded. Their last match being in 2023 before their leader, Saki Akai, retired. Since then, there have been no real major heel groups, or even heel groups in general. Which, for comparison, for my non-wrestling friends, in AEW, this is off the top of my head. I'm gonna think about this. I'm gonna try to name all the heel groups. There's the Death Riders, Don Callis Family, Triangle of Madness, The Demand, the Dogs, Divine Dominion, the Patriarchy, Shane Taylor Promotions, and Lethal Twist. There's probably like 10 more. I'm like kind of thinking of a few, but I don't know if they have 2 or 3 members, and if that counts as, each story, especially in these American promotions, needs a tier 1 villain, a good guy that you want to see win, and a villain you really want to see fall. But in a world that's so black and white as wrestling, how does Tokyo Joshi really get away with not really having good guys and bad guys and just having matches? To explain this in the most maybe Logan way possible, I'm going to give a very long-winded and a little roundabout answer. That's going to be completely unrelated for a little bit until you kind of get it. And that's about talking about something else I really deeply love. Maybe my first love before wrestling. Fighting games, and more specifically esports and the FGC, or the fighting game community. And I want to talk about my favorite set in fighting games ever. I know I mostly play Smash Ultimate if you've seen me compete, but my favorite set is the Street Fighter set, and it's probably the most compelling thing I've ever seen, which is Daigo versus Tokido at Kimono Michi 2. There we go. If you don't know, Tokido and Daigo are 2 of the most storied players in Street Fighter and the FGC in general. They're 2 of the 5 gods, which if you're a Smash player, especially a Melee player, the 5 gods are completely stolen from Japanese Street Fighter, or the Japanese fighting games are not nearly as cool. They represent 5 players who have been at the apex of the genre of fighting games, not just in Street Fighter or even in Capcom games, but just fighting games. Since the inception of the genre, they've just been, gods, progenitors. And the first god, maybe some might want to say it's the only god, is Daigo. He likely needs no introduction. If you're familiar at all with fighting games or even esports or even gaming, you would probably know who Daigo is. But I really want to introduce him with a quote about Daigo. I can't remember who said it. I vividly remember the quote in my brain. I know it was another player or a comment. I think it was a player who said it, but I can't find the thing. I thought it was Tokido who said it. I can't find the source. Anyone knows, please let me know. It's been driving me crazy. I can't find it. But the quote about Daigo is there's no one who takes fighting games more seriously than Daigo. And Daigo almost captures the zeitgeist of the FGC. He's a man who's dedicated everything to that pursuit, the pursuit of greatness, of being the best. He gives this quote in an interview a little bit before the match about his dedication, especially kind of earlier in his life, where he says, "It's as if my entire life existed for fighting games during my teenage years." And it feels almost disrespectful to reduce him to a Street Fighter player or, a fighting game player. He is fighting games. He is the FGC. He's the spirit of chasing your dreams, of wanting to be the best. And for his struggles, for his passion, he was the best. He was dominant for many years in Japan. I know he famously lost to Alex Valle here in America in Street Fighter 2, but past that, he's been the best. But when we get to this point in our story, he's past his prime. He's a little bit older. He's no longer the best Street Fighter player on the planet, undisputed, destroying everybody. But there's one thing he does hold on to, no matter his age, which is his true ability to win doesn't happen in tournaments, doesn't happen in playing in front of the million people. It happens in long sets. He's almost like Batman, where with prep time and one opponent, he's nearly unbeatable. The most famous example of this comes a few years earlier than the match we're going to talk about, which is Shan in 2013. Shan is one of the best fighting game players on the planet at the time. He defeats Daigo pretty convincingly to win EVO, the largest fighting game tournament of the year. The Super Bowl of fighting game tournaments, if you work for EVO. Before I still run EVO, oh my goodness, so much has changed. But winning EVO almost solidifies you as the best player of the year of that game. Maybe one of the best if you had maybe a flukish win, but you're almost immediately in top 3, top 5 contention for being the best. You won the Super Bowl. I don't know how sports work, but I assume if you win the Super Bowl, you're probably the best football team of the year. I'm sure someone who's watched football and is more knowledgeable than me gonna disagree with that, but I don't know. Anyways, after Shan beat Daigo at EVO, Daigo would play an exhibition match with Shan. First to 10, for nothing but ego and pride. This isn't to win the biggest tournament of the year. This is, I think you were better than me on this day. I want to prove that I'm better. This is just ego and pride. And most sets in tournament are first to 2 or first to 3. First to 10 is a long set. It prioritizes different things: adaptation, mental strength, mental fortitude, understanding of the game. And the idea is that in a longer set, the better player will win more often. And what do we think? If you haven't seen the set, pause it and maybe comment what you think the score of the set was. I think Shin beat Daigo 3-1, I want to say, or 3. It might have been 3-0. I should have looked before I said this. To win EVO, Daigo would dismantle Shen 10-0, of the far cry from the 1-3 of their previous set. And with his, legends were born in the FGC. Daigo taking months and months and months to prepare for one player, one matchup, one character, and just analyze, and just the habits, everything, just to beat this one person, this one match. Almost like boxing, right? Where you only prepare for one match and you have very spaced out matches. Just this superhuman amount of effort just spent on this one person, one match. But are you really surprised that he does this? I mean, after all, no one takes fighting games as seriously as Daigo. Well, there's also, on the other side of the bracket, is Tokido. Tokido's also one of the gods. Maybe considered a little lesser than Daigo. He wasn't the original god. He was the third god, if you want to kind of mythologize the FGC like that. And Tokido started a little bit later than Daigo. He's a little bit younger. But he quickly stood out. And in those arcade days, He was known for his understanding of the game and his consistency. What he was good at, that no one else on the planet was as good at as him, was his ability to break down games. He's finding the strongest option, the top tier, the cheapest mix-ups. This is the best option for me. This is the best option game. This is the least reward or least effort, high reward. I'm just gonna win. You can't do anything about this kind of characters. He has 30 top 8 placings at Evo. Right? We're talking about the biggest fighting game tournament in the world. He has 30 top 8 placements in about like a dozen different games. He's picking the strongest option. He's beating people who practice one game. And he just does it every game. It's unreal watching Tokido play some of these games, just applying that fundamentals and understanding. But in the late aughts, a little game comes out called Street Fighter 4, which explodes onto the scene and onto the FGC. And Tokido was one of the forefront players of the game. He played Akuma, kind of what would become his signature character for maybe the rest of his life, and he placed well. He wasn't the best, and he was maybe a little more inconsistent compared to some of his contemporaries like Daigo or Momochi. Because he was splitting so much time, it was hard for him to really be the super consistent force and have the super tight execution that he would need to really be the best Street Fighter players. So like people like Momochi and Daigo were a little bit more consistent at reaching those heights. His biggest comparison though would be Infiltration, the now disgraced best Korean Street Fighter 4 player. Again, not an endorsement of Infiltration. He seems like a horrible human. We're just talking about him as a character in the story, not as a human. Yeah. But Infiltration was the best Street Fighter 4 Korean player. And maybe at some points in the game, probably the best player in the game. And Infiltration played the same character as Tokido. They both played Akuma. But compared to Tokido, who's, top 8ing every game, but, not winning any of them, Infiltration's winning Evo with Akuma. He's that little cut above. Similar to Shan, Daigo would challenge Infiltration to a 1st to 10 later that year. After the Evo win, and Daigo prepares tirelessly to play Infiltration, the same way he did Shan. And before he plays Infil, a few days before, he sees Tokido in an event. They're teammates on Mad Catz. Hey, Tokido, you play the same character. Would you like to play an exposition match? I just want to show you, and I want to test what I've been working on, and, and we'll see. So they play the match. There's no footage of this match, at least none that I could find. But, the match is kind of unimportant of his story, right? It's a match before his big match with Infiltration. Daigo would beat Infiltration. Of course he would. It's Daigo in a long set. 10-2. Not close. Completely blown out. But what's interesting isn't the result. Of course Daigo won. It's the effect it had on Tokido. You see, at this point, Tokido's been playing for almost 20 years of fighting games. He's played since he was a kid. Since he was like 11, he really started going to events. He's one of the best players to ever touch a controller. But in that one sparring match, that one exhibition, playing Daigo changed him. Daigo wasn't playing to beat him. He was just playing to practice. But Tokido would speak later on how he was what he calls traumatized by that set. He questioned everything. He was one of the best players to ever touch the stick, the sticks. But Daigo, not even preparing for him, but just preparing for someone similar, with a similar character, was so perfect. So, just so meticulous that it shattered Tokido's confidence, and not just his view of himself in fighting games. Did he really understand fighting games? Was he really one of the best, or was he just nothing compared to Daigo? Tokido says, and this is maybe a poor translation, so maybe it's not what he meant, but Tokido kind of said, I think Daigo is human, but he's on a different level, right? Maybe the peak of what a human could be, but it almost sounds like Tokido's questioning if Daigo is even human, or if he's just nothing compared to Daigo. Maybe Daigo is human. It's Tokido that's inadequate. Immediately, there was change in Tokido. Instead of juggling the 6 to 8 games he was playing at the time, all the titles are out, he would shorten his focus to just 2 games. When Street Fighter 4 ended and Street Fighter 5 came out, he would just play Street Fighter 5. No more King of Fighters, no more Guilty Gear, no more Blaze Blue, and that we're just playing Street Fighter 5 and almost adopting the philosophy of Daigo. He abandoned his old previous philosophy of just finding the easiest, cheapest, most broken strategy. As he said, yes, I would win, but what would make me grow as a player? And it's kind of this very interesting thing of like, in the chase of Daigo almost, he has to become more like Daigo. But Tokido's transformation would be complete later, a few years later, when Akuma would come out in Street Fighter 5. It's this old main, but maybe Tokido's different from the Tokido of Street Fighter 4. In an upset victory that really inspired maybe me to go to my first local. Now I think about it, and maybe the effect it had on me and what felt really special at the time was Tokido will go on to win Evo 2017. I still remember, some of the tricks he was using, his taunt in grand finals. After he won, his statement of fighting games are something so great. He had made it. He had changed as a person and really had found that big win that he had wanted, but that wasn't really what he had wanted. Yeah, he was the best tournament player for Street Fighter 5, and now that we're past Street Fighter 5, he probably is the GOAT of the game. It's him or Punk, and I think it's probably Tokido. But to prove to himself, prove that his change was worth it, that he really had changed. After he won Evo, the challenge was thrown down. He wanted Daigo in a first at 10 in Street Fighter 5. So I want to set the scene a little bit before we get into the match itself. What really made this match interesting and what made predictions difficult is kind of where both players were. Daigo, yes, had won his previous first at 10s, but he's older now. He's past his prime. That was in Street Fighter 4. This is Street Fighter 5. It's a new game. It's a little bit easier. The skill gap is closed a little bit. He's clearly a top player, but maybe he's not the best anymore. He's outside the top 20 players globally. He's a little bit weaker. And on the opposite end, Tokido's only gotten stronger. He's the best Street Fighter 5 player in the world. He's won the biggest tournaments. He's done it. He's almost defined the way how to play the game. But it's Daigo in a long set. Can he really win? So before I completely spoil the result for the match, I encourage everyone to watch it. It's pretty easy to find on YouTube. If I'm not lazy again, I'll link it below. It doesn't matter how much you know about Street Fighter. The important things aren't going to be, Tokido's use of Fireball in this range, or Daigo says V-trigger and you bubble. None of that is important. It's about the emotions of both players, and it's, playing Street Fighter is a means to the end. It's not the importance, it's their philosophies. It's two people, two gods of the game, of the genre, chasing greatness, chasing perfection, maybe even in some ways chasing each other. But, at the end of the day, there's always a winner and a loser. In the end, Daigo would win. He won 10-5, a pretty sizable lead. He held the lead for pretty much all of a set. It never really felt like he was too far behind. After the match, they give just small interviews for cameras. Tokido is just crying and shaking, and you can really see how much it means to both of them. Even though Daigo looks a little maybe not as emotional as Tokido, you can really just tell what this means to both of them. Just an hour of playing Street Fighter, and we can see in a tangible way how changed these two people are. I think we're still feeling the effects in both of them of this set of their career and what we think of their legacies as players, and maybe what we think of them and what they represent in the community. Anyways, super long tangent over. Getting back on track. Let's talk about some wrestling again. Back on track here with the wrestling example. Who do we think is the face here and who's the heel? Is Tokido the face? I mean, he's crying after the match and you really feel for him. He's someone who tried. He's an underdog trying to prove he's gotten strong enough to slay the dragon that traumatized him previously. But is Daigo the face? He's a man who's past his prime, who he's going, he's over the hill, but he just proves over and over again that no one works harder than him. No one's better than him. Age doesn't matter. He can still do it. With hard work and dedication, even the best player in the world will lose. But it's a tricky question, and there's not really a great answer either way. I think it depends who you sympathize with and who you root for. And a lot of Tokyo Joshi main events can feel like that. Competition and just having a winner or loser in general can build narratives and build storylines. There's a lot I left out here that I could have added. Daigo and Tokido being teammates on Mad Cats, or their accolades, or how many world championships they won, and how many trophies they have, and their set counts. All that stuff doesn't matter. All you need for a compelling story is two people who are fighting, that want similar things, but maybe they have to go a separate way about it, or fighting for what they believe in. And another example that's similar to this Daigo Tokido one is the main event of Tokyo Joshi's biggest event, Grand Princess, their 2023 main event. Which, the main event, the easiest things to fight for in wrestling is championships. Every big event usually has a championship. The World Heavyweight Championship, the World Tag Championship. In Tokyo Joshi, there are only 3 championships. There's the International Princess title, which is kind of a lower championship. It's a secondary title, kind of meant for defending against people from other companies or countries, maybe. So international. There's a Tag Princess titles, or the Princess Tag Team titles, which is just for the best tag team, the best 2-person team. But the main title is the Princess of Princesses Championship, or title. It's the top prize, one person owns it, and when you're the Princess of Princess champion, you're the star, the main focus maybe of the company. You're the one who's expected to carry the weight, to be the face. But this is a story about a tag team. This is a story about maybe the best tag team that Tokyo Joshi has produced. The Magical Sugar Rabbits, or Majurabi for short. The Magical Sugar Rabbits are a tag team consisting of Yuka Sakazaki, who her gimmick is she's like a magical girl, and Mizuki, whose nickname, don't worry about the nicknames, they're not going to make sense, it's okay, whose nickname is the Popping Sugar Rabbit. So together, Magical Girl, Popping Sugar Rabbit, Magical Sugar Rabbits. By the time this story takes place in 2023, they've already won championships. They've kind of established themselves as kind of one of, if not the best tag team in the company. Yuka was looked at in particular maybe as one of the strongest wrestlers of the company. She's a founding member of Tokyo Joshi, and she's been there since the beginning. It's kind of been a top star. She first challenged for the Princess of Princesses title in 2016. She challenged who is kind of like the ace of the company, the best wrestler, the most popular and most successful wrestler Tokyo Joshi has produced, Miyu Yamashita. And she loses, and she's really struggled almost to keep up with Yamashita. Yuka does not win the belt here. She tries really hard, but she's a step behind Yamashita. She would be able to win the belt maybe. I shouldn't say maybe. She wins the belt a year later. She beats Yu, who had beaten Yamashita for the belt, and Yuka would beat her. Yuka would not hold the belt long. In fact, it's the shortest reign in the company's history so far. An 83-day, less than 3-month reign, which, if we compare it to Yamashita's reign, is utterly eclipsed by Yamashita's way longer 262-day reign. Yuka would win the belt another, 2 more times, both against Shoko Nakajima, never beating Yamashita. And she enters her third reign in 2022, a year before our story starts. With this win, Yuka wanted this to be different. She already had the shortest title reign. She didn't want to be another, a failure of a champion. I know that's kind of weird wording because if you're the champion, you're not a failure. But to Yuka, she's always playing catch up to Miyu. Miyu is having that 262-day reign, is having a year-long reign, a 2-year-long reign. Yuka wanted that. She wanted to have the longest reign. She wanted the most defenses. She wanted to beat every member of the roster, every wrestler on the planet. She wants to be the face of Tokyo Joshi. She wants to be the ace. And no one was going to take that belt from her. She had to prove to herself, prove to everyone else that she was better than Miyu. She could be the best. And she started off really strong. She defended the belt twice before kind of the day we're going to talk about, including a very kind of successful title defense against Rika Tatsumi, one of my favorites. I love Rika. But Rika was the one who took the belt from her during her second reign. She was the one who beat her again to kind of prove that Yuka's reign was a fluke and she was a failure. She vanquished her demons of the past. She hadn't beaten Miyu yet for the belt, but she was on her way to proving that she was the best, she was the face, and she deserved to be the best. But in the main event of Grand Princess 2023, Yuka would face someone that hadn't been here for the belt before, and wasn't Miyu, but it was someone that she hadn't prepared against. It was her best friend, her partner in Majurabi. It was Mizuki. Which, Mizuki's path to this match was very different from Yuka's. Mizuki joined Tokyo Joshi in 2017, a year after Yuka already had her first title shot. And even though she had prior wrestling experience in a company called Ice Ribbon, Mizuki had kind of a rough start. She didn't win any gold. She was in a very fun, very lovely tag team called Ito Respect Army with Maki Ito. But they didn't win anything, and Mizuki was definitely the better half of that team at the time, but she wouldn't win. But she would find some success starting later in 2019, 2 years into her Tokyo Joshi career, when the Magical Sugar Rabbits were put together in a random draw. And with Yuka, she would find her first championship. They would claim the tag titles. Yeah, the singles titles wouldn't come to Mizuki, but she did have a title. Maybe not by herself, but with Yuka. By the time we get to Grand Princess 23, this would be Mizuki's 5th time challenging for the Princess of Princess title. Every time before, she had fell before the finish line. She just couldn't get it over the line. It just feels like at some point, if you're not doing it now, are you ever going to really do it? This is your 5th time. You started the company way earlier in 2017. It's 2023 now. You've been here for a while. Maybe, this is her dream. Can she give up on her dream? Can she win it? There's no villain here. There's not even a hero. Do you root for Mizuki? She's the best wrestler who's probably never won a title in that company and feels like an underdog. Yuka's been champion 3 times now. Mizuki's never won it. Or is it Yuka, a workhorse who's never really gotten the flowers she deserved, trying to cement legacy? And so it happens. The stage is set. At Grand Princess 23, both of the magical sugar rabbits will need to crush each other to achieve their dream. To put aside their friendship and really, really destroy the other person's dream, stomp on it to achieve their own. And again, I encourage you to watch the event. It is great. The entire Grand Princess card is really good. Even some of the earlier storylines, there's a lot of tag teams fighting. Daisy Monkey, Arisu Endo and Suzume, and then Miyu Watanabe versus Rika Tatsumi for the International Princess title. It's on Wrestle Universe. It's payable. It's pretty cheap, but if you text me and add me on Discord, I can stream the video for you because I pay for it. But yeah, I encourage you to watch it. It's a great match. Oh, you you want to know who wins? The end of the story? I don't want to tell you. If you are invested at all in this story and want to know, does Mizuki conquer the mountain or does Yuka stay at the top and plant her flag? Consider watching pro wrestling. Like Tokyo Joshi and like 8 other promotions are all on Wrestle Universe for like $8 a month. It's the easiest way to get into pro wrestling and just kind of watch stuff and find people you like. Don't worry too much about the storylines. It's really easy to get into. Again, I'm here to guide people. And if you have questions, I can guide you. But I encourage you, if you were genuinely intrigued or invested, you should watch it. Don't listen to me talk about it. Experience it. Come to your own conclusions. And that's kind of the crux of this video. The more I grow up, the more I understand what I like, or I try to understand what I like and why I like it. I've always been fascinated by a sort of competition and storylines and how maybe naturally the storylines come from just competition. Yes, wrestling is a fictional competition. I have bad news about every anime you've seen, but all the storylines of your favorite sports team or even just playing games with your friends are all in wrestling. They're just fictionalized to have better endings and arcs. And with that, I want to go back to the original question. Why do I like pro wrestling? I don't know, but I can tell you why I think I like it, and which is the way that pro wrestling tells stories is a way that's really compelling to anyone who's been a competitor. I think most people will say they're drawn to wrestling because of the larger-than-life characters and over-the-top melodrama and all the shenanigans that happens. But I think the real appeal is a little bit deeper, maybe more honest, more human. I think the real appeal is seeing the struggle, of seeing people be winners and losers, and the triumph that comes in competition, in fighting, and well, life itself. It's also human. And the more I grow up, the more I see, no matter what everyone says, pro wrestling is real. It might be more real than it ever was fake. Thanks for watching my video, gang. I don't really have a really awesome outro with crazy EDM music and some really cool graphic. Maybe I'll do some like crazy editing trick. Will all be crazy. I just want to end this with the message I kind of say to everyone. My philosophy in life, when it comes to things like media, and it's you are what you eat in terms of your media consumption. Expand your palate. Don't eat junk food. Find things. Experience something weird. Something that makes you uncomfortable. Something you don't like. Go sit with it. Feel uncomfortable. Don't like it. Think about why you don't like it. Go beyond who you were yesterday. Okay. Love you. Bye.